It's a story that has a little bit of everything. A full-blown band feud after some nose beers, and somehow it ends with the frontman standing alone at a gas station in Vermont all the way across the country. The frontman for the death metal band Vitriol was just abandoned by his entire band mid-tour, and while the initial headlines made it sound like a simple case of a band quitting a difficult singer, new allegations of drugs, fights, and possible sabotage have turned this into a total disaster. We first heard of this over the weekend when Vitriol's guitarist Keith Merrow posted a shocking update to his Instagram story. He revealed that the band had effectively disbanded in the middle of their North American headline tour. But they didn't just cancel the dates and fly home. In fact, for one member, he's not sure how he's going to be getting home at all. Merrow wrote in all caps that Kyle, quote, "f***ed around and found out." He explained that he and two other members of the band, the bassist and drummer, made the decision to physically abandon their vocalist at a gas station in Vermont. Merrow stated that the group would no longer tolerate Kyle's, quote, "cowardly and weak outbursts of misplaced anger." He called it the darkest day of his music career, but insisted they had to leave him behind to protect themselves. So from their perspective, it sounds like they were escaping a toxic situation. They didn't feel like the internal dynamic was working for them, and they seemingly had reached their last straw with the band. And this isn't the first time that Vitriol has had multiple member changes. Just a few months ago, their drummer walked away, and last year, the bassist of the band quit mid-tour as well. So to a lot of the fans, it sounds like the band just reached a breaking point and bailed. But now vocalist Kyle Rasmussen has managed to get in front of a camera, and now, in a lengthy 40-minute video statement, he breaks down how he sees things and telling his side of the story, which is much different than what we heard from the other members.
I'm also going to be as honest as I possibly can. I know that for me, that's typically a red flag when someone says that, but I'm mentioning that because a big reason why I've never come out and said anything in the past about any of the other members, well, frankly, there's a lot of reasons that I don't think that's a valuable use of my time. But there were people that were hurt in this situation that are not me.
Kyle admits that the trouble started after the band show in New York City recently. He said that the band were indulging in what he called nose beers and partying for about 30 hours straight.
I'm a pretty shameless guy, so I have no issue telling you that I like to indulge in responsible irresponsibility. So about once or twice a tour, I can't use the real word because I'll probably get censored somehow or flagged, but I like to indulge in nose beers. I'm sure it doesn't take much imagination to know what I'm talking about. So we play our show in New York, and I managed to get some nose beers, and we all indulged. After about a day, you know, of course, if anyone has participated, they know it's very easy to lose track of time. After enjoying it for a while, we realized we didn't have a lot of time to rest before the show. So basically, long story short, for about 30 hours, these men were heavily intoxicated.
He says the band was heavily intoxicated during that time when things would ultimately spiral out of control. According to Kyle, the vibe shifted when the band realized they were about to cross the Canadian border. He claims that some members of the band had become paranoid because they had weed inside of their RV. Kyle says he tried to be the voice of reason and tell the members to calm down, but in that high-stress environment, things apparently escalated. He admits that he blew a lid. He describes that confrontation in the back of the RV where Keith Merrow allegedly came into his sleeping quarters. Kyle admits he screamed at Keith, calling him names and told him to get out. He takes ownership of that part.
At that point, Keith came into the bedroom. The curtain of in the back of the RV, there's a private bedroom where I was resting after that very long night. And he comes in and he's kind of standing over me. You know, I think what's going on is he's very intoxicated and he thought I was belittling him or, you know, trying to make him feel small or cowardly, which was not my intention. And he comes into the room, and he's just kind of, in his big, tall way, looking down at me. And I was like, bro, now's not the time, dude. Can we, this is crazy. We need to get some sleep. I'm not having this conversation right now. So he leaves, and he comes back again. And I say, Keith, you really got to get out of my space.
He even says that he's had issues with anger and that he verbally attacked the guitarist.
That's when I got very upset. And I screamed, and I said, how dare you, dare you try to ruin this by goading me, by egging me on to do something that you've seen me do. It was heartbreaking. And part of me knew that it was the chemicals talking. So anyway, I called him I said, how dare you get the out of here. I didn't threaten him physically. I didn't touch him. He leaves. I try to go back to sleep.
It's at that point that Kyle says the next morning when the band decided to leave him, things allegedly got physical. He alleges that when he refused to get out of the RV, a member of the band went nuclear. Kyle claims Keith shouted at him that he was going to stab him in the effing neck.
And he told me to get out of the RV and that he was going to stab me in the neck.
Eventually, Kyle and his girlfriend were left behind at the gas station in Vermont.
And when I didn't get out of the RV, he pushed my girlfriend to the side, Maggie, who has come here, who has left her life to help support this band and them, who cooked for them, who woke them up, who never did anything but show them kindness, compassion, and nurturing.
But they weren't just left with their backpacks. They were left with a U-Haul truck full of gear, their dog, and no vehicle to move it. Kyle claims that because he wanted to build trust with the band, he had let Keith handle all the finances. He alleges that when the band peeled off, Keith kept the band's money and didn't even toss them $50 for gas or food. He says that Keith told them to freeze and die out there. So now Kyle says he's been stranded by all of this. He doesn't have a credit card and a massive pile of expensive gear that he can't move. He ultimately launched a GoFundMe that he says is to help him and his girlfriend get back home to Portland across the country. Now, what does this mean for Vitriol, which is actually a sick band if you listen to their music. Really heavy, really intense group. Unfortunately, it seems like the band is almost certainly over at this point.
I never anticipated something this disastrous, this catastrophic. Losing all three members at the same time is something that is very difficult to bounce back from. So I don't know for sure what's happening, but I have to assume that Vitriol is going to take a nice break for the foreseeable future until I figure out what the next move is.
But Kyle was surprisingly candid about his reputation. He acknowledged what the band has gone through. He says, with 15 members over the years, and admits that he doesn't think that he'll have any trust in finding new musicians that will step in to a volatile situation like that. Now, he also noted in the video that leading up to this moment, things were great within the band and they were talking about their future. What a great time they were having. The spirits were high. But after being left on the side of the road, you wonder if they're ever going to be able to get along again or if this is it for good for that lineup. Let me know what you all think down in the comments and be sure to subscribe with notifications on for the latest news and updates right here at Rockfeed.